Most people believe defending themselves is strength. They are wrong. Defense is exposure. Defense is submission disguised as righteousness. The moment you explain yourself, you kneel before the court of other people's judgment and ask to be spared. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it names. Power does not argue. Power does not justify. Power lets silence rot the accusations of the weak. You have been trained to defend yourself, trained like livestock. From childhood, you were conditioned to believe that innocence must speak, that truth must explain itself, that misunderstanding is a problem you are responsible for fixing. This belief did not come from wisdom, it came from control. Societies teach defense because defense keeps hierarchy stable. The one who explains is already beneath the one who demands explanation. Watch what happens the moment you defend yourself. Your voice tightens, your posture shifts, your words accelerate. You are no longer choosing, you are reacting. The nervous system does not lie. Defending yourself activates the same biological circuitry as prey behavior. Heart rate rises, cortisol floods the bloodstream, the mind narrows. You are no longer a strategist, you are an animal trying to survive social death. Predators do not explain themselves to prey. Kings do not justify themselves to peasants. Those at the top of any hierarchy are assumed innocent until proven otherwise, and even then, they often remain untouched. This is not morality, this is reality. Human beings read power first and logic second. When you defend yourself, you reverse that order and pay the price. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most accusations are not attempts to uncover truth. They are probes, tests, hooks thrown into the water to see if you flinch. When you rush to defend yourself, you confirm something far more damaging than guilt. You confirm that the accuser has leverage over your emotional state. And once someone has that leverage, they will use it again and again. Silence, on the other hand, does something terrifying to the human mind. It removes feedback, it denies resolution, it forces the accuser to sit alone with their own narrative. Most people cannot tolerate that. They will fill the silence themselves, they will over-explain, they will contradict, they will escalate, and in doing so, they expose their motives without you saying a word. Machiavelli warned that reputation is not protected through clarification, but through control of perception. Perception is shaped by who appears unmoved, who appears unpressured, who appears untouched by noise. The one who does not defend appears confident. The confident are assumed innocent. This assumption is not rational, it is biological. The brain equates calm with dominance, and dominance with correctness. You have likely experienced this without understanding it. The person who said nothing while chaos swirled around them, the one who did not rush to be understood, the one who seemed distant, unreadable, almost cold. People leaned toward them, deferred to them, gave them the benefit of the doubt. This was not charisma. This was restraint weaponized. But restraint is not weakness, it is selective force. You do not refuse to defend yourself because you are afraid. You refuse because you are calculating, because you understand that every word is a reveal, and every reveal lowers your ceiling. You let others exhaust themselves explaining why you should care. This rule is not moral, it is surgical. And it applies only in specific situations where defense would cost you more than silence ever could. There are moments when explanation is a trap and dignity is maintained by withdrawal. There are moments when defending yourself hands your opponent the knife and guides it to your throat. Most people never learn this. They talk themselves into smaller and smaller positions until there is nowhere left to stand. You will not be one of them. The first situation where you must never defend yourself is when the accusation is vague. Ambiguous words are weapons. They are not meant to be resolved. They are meant to destabilize you. When someone says, "People are saying things about you," or "You know what you did," or "You've changed," they are not inviting dialogue. They are fishing for reaction. The moment you ask for clarification, you signal insecurity. The moment you defend, you validate a charge that was never defined. Vagueness creates asymmetry. It places the burden on you to supply meaning, and whatever meaning you supply can be used against you. The human mind, under pressure, fills gaps poorly. You will overcorrect. You will confess to crimes that were never named. Silence, in contrast, forces the accuser to either sharpen their blade or drop it. Most cannot sharpen it. They relied on fog, not facts. The second situation is when the accuser has nothing to lose. Understand this deeply. People with no status, no leverage, no reputation at risk can afford chaos. They thrive in it. They provoke to elevate themselves through conflict. If you defend yourself to someone beneath you in the hierarchy, you lift them up by acknowledging them as a worthy threat. You turn noise into dialogue. You turn irrelevance into visibility. Hierarchy is not announced. It is enforced through behavior. When you refuse to defend yourself downward, you communicate a brutal truth without words. This person does not exist on your level. This creates rage, confusion, obsession, and that reaction further confirms your position above them. The latter is maintained by those who refuse to climb down. The third situation is when emotions are high. Defending yourself while angry, afraid, or wounded is strategic suicide. Emotion narrows perception. It speeds speech. It fractures coherence. Even if you are right, you will sound wrong. Even if you are innocent, you will appear unstable. Observers do not judge truth in emotional moments. They judge control. Power is calm. Power is slow. Power chooses timing. When emotions surge, the correct move is withdrawal, not rebuttal. You do not step into a storm to prove you are dry. You wait until the storm exhausts itself. Then you decide whether the ruins are worth addressing at all. The fourth situation is when the attack is public. Public accusations are performances. They are not trials. The accuser is not seeking truth. They are seeking an audience. When you defend yourself publicly, you give them what they want most: engagement. You validate the stage. You legitimize the spectacle. Crowds do not reward nuance. They reward dominance. Silence in public creates discomfort. Discomfort fractures attention. Attention drifts. The mob moves on. But if you speak, you anchor the narrative. You become part of the entertainment, and entertainment always consumes its performers. There is a deeper psychological layer here. When you refuse to defend yourself publicly, observers begin to project. Some will assume guilt. Others will assume superiority. The latter group is always more powerful. They control outcomes. They remember restraint as strength, long after noise is forgotten. The fifth situation is when you are being tested, not accused. Tests come disguised as disrespect, sarcasm, backhanded comments, subtle challenges to your competence or authority. These moments are traps designed to see if you are reactive or sovereign. If you defend yourself, you fail the test. You prove you can be moved. Silence or minimal acknowledgement flips the test back onto the challenger. Now they must escalate or retreat. Escalation exposes insecurity. Retreat confirms your dominance. Either outcome favors you. Understand this rule at the nervous system level.
Defending yourself feels urgent because your body interprets social threat as physical threat. But in modern hierarchies, the one who controls their impulses controls the room. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be unmovable.
The sixth situation where you must never defend yourself is when the attack comes from someone who secretly depends on you. This is the most misunderstood dynamic and the most dangerous to misread. Dependency breeds resentment. Resentment seeks release, and release often takes the form of accusation. When someone needs you for access, validation, resources, protection, or identity, they live in a state of internal imbalance. They cannot confront this imbalance directly, so they externalize it. They criticize you. They question your decisions. They imply flaws, not to correct you, but to reduce you, to bring you closer to their level psychologically. If you defend yourself here, you collapse the structure that holds your power. You reassure them, you stabilize them, you signal that their approval matters. And once a dependent realizes they can emotionally move you, the dependency turns parasitic. They will attack again, harder, louder, more entitled. Silence in this situation is devastating. It removes emotional supply. It forces the dependent to confront the asymmetry they were trying to deny. They either realign into respect or self-destruct into hostility. Both outcomes reveal the truth, and truth is leverage. There is an ancient principle beneath this. In primate hierarchies, challengers test leaders through small acts of defiance, eye contact, encroachment, noise. The leader who reacts excessively invites challenge. The leader who remains unmoved signals unchallengeable status. The group adjusts accordingly. Humans never outgrew this wiring. We just learned to dress it in words. The seventh situation is the most subtle of all. It is when defending yourself would be correct, logical, and even justified. This is where most intelligent people fail, because intelligence loves clarity, it loves coherence, it loves being right, and power does not. There are moments when explanation would clear your name instantly, where facts are on your side, where logic would win, and yet speaking would reduce your mystique. It would lower your altitude. It would make you legible, and legibility is vulnerability. Uncertainty keeps others cautious. Explanation invites familiarity. Familiarity breeds comparison. Comparison erodes awe. When you explain yourself too much, you turn yourself into something that can be measured, challenged, debated. You become an object instead of a force. Machiavelli understood that rulers lose authority not when they are wrong, but when they are predictable. Predictability allows others to plan against you. Silence preserves unpredictability. It keeps others guessing. Guessing weakens coordination, and weakened coordination protects your position. This is where the weak panic. They hear this and think it means passivity. It does not. Silence is not absence. It is pressure without direction. It forces others to move while you remain still. It creates asymmetry in effort. They burn energy. You conserve it. There is a cost to this path. You will be misunderstood. You will be projected onto. Some will call you arrogant. Others will call you cold. Let them. Labels are the currency of those who cannot influence outcomes. What matters is not what they say, but what they do next, and they will hesitate. Because hesitation is the natural response to something that does not explain itself. But understand this clearly. Silence is not a blanket rule. It is a calibrated weapon. Used incorrectly, it isolates. Used prematurely, it alienates. Used without internal certainty, it collapses into avoidance. You must know when you are withholding power and when you are avoiding responsibility. Most people cannot tell the difference. That is why they oscillate between over-explaining and disappearing. You are being trained not to oscillate. You are being trained to hold tension, to let discomfort exist without resolving it, to allow others to feel the pressure they tried to place on you.
If you attempt to wield silence without internal discipline, it will betray you. Silence only works when it is inhabited by certainty. Otherwise, it leaks. People sense the difference immediately. Empty silence feels evasive. Loaded silence feels final. One repels respect, the other commands it. This is where most people fail. They hear the rule and imitate the behavior without acquiring the psychology behind it. They stop defending themselves, but internally they are still pleading, still rehearsing arguments, still hoping to be understood. That internal noise radiates outward. Humans are experts at detecting incongruence. When your silence is fueled by fear, others feel invited to push harder. The first internal mistake is needing to be seen as good. This need is poison. The desire to be perceived as fair, kind, reasonable, or innocent makes you defend yourself reflexively. It ties your self-worth to external approval, and anything tied to approval can be weaponized against you. Power begins the moment you detach your identity from how you are interpreted. This does not mean becoming cruel or reckless. It means accepting that misunderstanding is not a threat, it is a filter. Those who matter will recalibrate. Those who don't will self-select out through resentment. The second mistake is mistiming silence. Silence used too early feels like avoidance. Silence used too late feels like defeat. Timing is everything. You do not go silent while still emotionally reactive. You go silent after you have fully stabilized internally. Otherwise, your withdrawal appears abrupt, defensive, and fragile. Stability is not pretending you don't care. It is deciding that caring will not dictate your behavior. When you reach that state, silence stops being reactive and becomes positional. You are no longer running from the conversation. You are choosing not to dignify it. The third mistake is overusing silence. Silence gains power through rarity. If you withdraw from everything, you signal fragility, not dominance. Power is selective engagement. You speak when it benefits you. You remain silent when speech would cost you leverage. This contrast conditions others to treat your words as scarce and valuable. There is a deeper mechanism at work here. Humans are meaning-making machines. When you remove explanation, the brain fills the void with inference, and inference is shaped by status cues. If your posture, pacing, and emotional control signal confidence, the mind fills the silence in your favor. If they signal doubt, the mind turns against you. This is why silence cannot be separated from presence. How you sit, how you breathe, how you move through space, all of it communicates whether your silence is authority or collapse. Words are only one layer of communication, often the least important. Now understand the real inversion. When you stop defending yourself, you force others into defense. They begin explaining why they asked, why they meant it that way, why they're just being honest. You say nothing, and suddenly they are justifying their behavior to you. The power has already shifted. This is not accidental. The human psyche cannot tolerate unresolved tension without assigning responsibility. When you refuse to carry that responsibility, it rebounds. The accuser begins to feel exposed, self-conscious, unsure. That discomfort is what makes them retreat or overcompensate. At this stage, many people break.
They rush in to soothe, to clarify, to smooth the moment. This is weakness disguised as politeness. By relieving their discomfort, you surrender the leverage silence created. You teach them that pressure works on you. Hold it. Let the silence do its work. There is one final layer to this rule that most never access. It is not about individual situations. It is about reputation over time. When people learn that you do not explain yourself casually, they stop demanding explanations. When they learn that accusations bounce off you unanswered, they choose softer targets. Your presence alone begins to regulate behavior.
When you stop defending yourself consistently, something irreversible happens. Your identity hardens, not in cruelty, but in density. People begin to feel resistance before they speak. They sense that their words will not land where they expect. This changes behavior upstream. Fewer probes, fewer tests, fewer casual accusations disguised as conversation. This is how real power operates. It does not react to threats. It eliminates the conditions that allow threats to form. Over time, silence becomes part of your reputation. Not the silence of absence, but the silence of someone who does not negotiate their position. Others begin to pre-edit themselves around you. They choose words more carefully. They soften their tone. They seek alignment instead of confrontation. You did not demand this. You trained it. Understand the psychological mechanism. The human mind is lazy. It looks for predictable patterns to conserve energy. When someone repeatedly encounters no reward for provocation, the behavior extinguishes. When they encounter uncertainty paired with emotional stability, avoidance replaces challenge. You become cognitively expensive to engage improperly. And humans avoid expensive interactions unless the payoff is worth it. This is why defending yourself is so dangerous long-term. It teaches people exactly how to access you, which buttons to press, how much pressure it takes before you fold. You think you are protecting your name, but you are mapping your vulnerabilities for anyone observant enough to watch. Silence erases the map. But this rule demands something in return. You must be internally aligned with the consequences. When you do not defend yourself, some will walk away with false conclusions. Some will misinterpret your restraint as arrogance. Some will project narratives that you never correct. If you cannot tolerate this, you will eventually crack and over-explain. And the moment you do, everything you built collapses. This is the price of psychological altitude. Fewer people understand you. Fewer people feel entitled to you. Fewer people feel comfortable challenging you casually. What you gain is not popularity, it is gravity. Machiavelli wrote for rulers, not for crowds. He understood that the mass always misunderstands power, and that clarity is often a liability. The ruler who tries to be loved through explanation becomes trapped by expectation. The ruler who accepts being partially feared retains freedom of movement. Fear here does not mean terror. It means caution, distance, respect, the awareness that you are not easily moved. Now the final inversion. When you never defend yourself in these situations, you do not become silent because you are strong. You become strong because you are silent. The identity follows the behavior. Each moment you withhold reaction, your nervous system recalibrates. You become slower, calmer, less penetrable. What once triggered urgency now registers as noise. This is how you exit the prey category permanently. Predators do not announce themselves. They do not explain their intentions. They do not chase every sound in the forest. They wait,
and everything else adjusts around them. This knowledge is not for everyone. Most people will hear it and misuse it, mistaking avoidance for power, withdrawal for dominance. They will isolate themselves and call it strategy. That is not what you are being taught. You are being taught selective silence, conscious restraint, the discipline to let others reveal themselves while you remain intact. If this resonates, you already understand something most never will. This channel is not for those who seek comfort, validation, or applause. It is for those who seek clarity, leverage, and control over their psychological position in the world. If you belong to that category, you already know what to do.